Every day at 12:15, the cafeteria at Westbrook Middle School became a storm. Chairs scraped against the floor. Plastic trays clattered. Someone always shouted across the room. Someone always laughed too loudly. The smell of pizza, fries, and chocolate milk mixed into something that belonged only to school cafeterias. And every day, in the farthest corner of the room, a boy named Eli Mercer sat alone. He always chose the same table. It was a small table beside the vending machines, close enough to the wall that no one could sit behind him. He placed his backpack on the chair to his right and his lunchbox on the chair to his left, although no one had ever asked to sit there. Eli was 12. He had dark hair that fell over his eyes and a habit of pulling the sleeves of his sweatshirt over his hands. He rarely spoke in class. When teachers called on him, he answered so quietly that they sometimes asked him to repeat himself. Most students did not dislike Eli. Disliking someone required noticing them. And Eli had become very good at disappearing. At lunch, he opened the same blue lunchbox every day. Inside was usually a sandwich wrapped in wax paper, a bruised apple, and a small note. The notes were written by his grandmother. "Have a good day, sweetheart. Remember, storms do not last forever. I'm proud of you." Eli always read the note twice. Then he folded it carefully and placed it in the front pocket of his backpack with all the others. Across the cafeteria, Maya Torres noticed this. Maya noticed many things other people missed. She noticed when teachers looked tired. She noticed when someone laughed but did not look happy. She noticed that the custodian, Mr. Bell, hummed the same song every Friday. She had noticed Eli before, of course. Everyone had. But on that Tuesday, she noticed the note. She saw him unfold it. She saw the smallest change in his face as he read it, as though someone had lit a candle inside him. Then a group of boys passed his table. One of them bumped Eli's shoulder hard enough to knock his apple onto the floor. The apple rolled beneath the vending machine. "Sorry," the boy said, without stopping. The others laughed. Eli stared at the empty place on his tray. He did not complain. He did not look angry. He simply picked up his sandwich and took a small bite. Maya looked down at her own table. Her friends were talking about a birthday party that weekend. Someone was showing a video on her phone. Everyone was laughing. Maya laughed too, although she had not heard the joke. For the rest of lunch, she kept glancing toward the corner. The next day, Eli was there again. Same table, same blue lunchbox, same empty chairs. Maya stood with her tray, looking first at her friends, then at Eli. There were rules in middle school that nobody wrote down. You sat with your group. You did not suddenly sit with the quiet kid. You did not do anything that might make people ask why. Maya took one step toward her usual table. Then she remembered the apple rolling beneath the vending machine. She turned around. Eli looked up when she placed her tray across from him. His whole body became still. "Is someone sitting here?" Maya asked. Eli looked at the empty chair beside him. "No." "Okay." She sat down. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Maya opened her milk. Eli stared at his sandwich. Finally, she said, "Your lunchbox is cool." It was not cool. It was faded blue with a broken zipper. Eli looked at it. "My grandmother gave it to me." "Oh?" Another silence. Maya could feel people looking at them. She did not turn around. "Does she write those notes?" she asked. Eli's eyes moved quickly toward his backpack. What notes? The ones in your lunch. He pulled his sleeves farther over his hands. Yes. What did today say? Eli hesitated. Then he reached into his pocket and unfolded the paper. Sometimes being brave means staying kind. Maya read it again in her head. That's a good one. Eli nodded. The next day, Maya sat with him again, and the day after that. At first, their conversations were small. They talked about homework, cafeteria food, teachers who assigned too much reading. Then, slowly, Eli began speaking more. He told Maya he liked drawing buildings, not regular buildings, buildings that did not exist yet. Libraries shaped like trees, hospitals with gardens on every floor, apartment buildings with bridges between them so lonely people could visit one another without going outside. Why bridges? Maya asked. Eli shrugged. So no one gets stuck by themselves. Maya looked at the drawing. It showed two tall buildings joined by a glass walkway filled with flowers. You're really good, she said. Eli shook his head. No, I'm not. You are. He studied her face, as though checking whether she was making fun of him. She was not. After that, Eli brought a sketchbook to lunch. Every day, he showed Maya one new drawing. A train station beneath the ocean, a school where every classroom had a dog, a cafeteria with round tables so no one could sit in a corner. That drawing made Maya smile. A week later, one of Maya's friends stopped her in the hallway. Why do you keep sitting with him? Maya knew who she meant. Because I want to. He's weird. Maya felt something rise in her chest. It was not exactly anger. It was disappointment. He's not weird, she said. He's just quiet. Her friend rolled her eyes. Same thing. For a moment, Maya wanted to say nothing. Staying silent would have been easier. Then she remembered the note. Sometimes being brave means staying kind. No, Maya said. It isn't. At lunch that day, Maya sat across from Eli as usual. But this time, another student followed her. His name was Ben. He was in their science class. Can I sit here? He asked. Eli looked confused. Maya smiled. Sure. The next day, Ben returned. Then a girl named Lila joined them. By Friday, there were 5 students around Eli's table. The small table beside the vending machines was suddenly too crowded, so they moved to a larger one. Eli did not say much that first day at the new table, but he smiled more than once. A real smile. Not the small candlelight smile he had when reading his grandmother's notes. This one reached his eyes. Several weeks later, their teacher announced a school design competition. Students had to create an idea that would improve life at Westbrook. Maya immediately looked at Eli. You should enter. He shook his head. No. Yes. People will laugh. Then let them. Eli looked down. You don't understand. Maya waited. For a long time, he said nothing. Then, very quietly, he told her. At his old school, Eli had given a presentation about one of his building designs. He had been nervous and stumbled over his words. Someone recorded it. The video had been shared around. Students added music, captions, cruel comments. For months, people repeated the way he had mispronounced one word. His mother had eventually transferred him to Westbrook. "That's why I don't talk," he said. "When people don't notice you, they can't make you into a joke." Maya felt a heaviness behind her ribs. She finally understood. Eli had not disappeared because he had nothing to say. He had disappeared because people had taught him that being seen was dangerous. "You don't have to enter," Maya said. Eli looked surprised. "But I think your ideas deserve a room bigger than this cafeteria." For the next 2 days, he said nothing about the competition. Then, on Monday, he placed a rolled sheet of paper on the table. "I made something." It was a new cafeteria design. There were no long tables divided by groups. Instead, the room had circles of different sizes. Some tables were for large groups. Others had only 2 seats. In the center was a table marked "Open Seat." Above it, Eli had written, "For anyone who does not want to eat alone." Maya looked at him. "You're entering?" Eli swallowed. "Yes." On presentation day, his hands shook. The entire school gathered in the auditorium. When Eli's name was called, he walked slowly to the front, carrying his design. For a moment, he stood without speaking. The silence grew. Maya sat in the 3rd row with Ben and Lila. She raised one hand and gave him a small wave. Eli took a breath. "Lunch is supposed to be a break," he began. "But for some people, it is the hardest part of the day." His voice trembled. No one laughed. He continued. He explained the open seat table. He explained how students could place a small card on the table if they were comfortable welcoming someone new. He explained that loneliness was not always obvious. "Sometimes," he said, "the person sitting alone is not choosing to be alone. Sometimes they are waiting for someone to prove that the world can be different." When he finished, the auditorium remained silent for half a second. Then Maya stood. She began clapping. Ben stood next, then Lila. Soon, the entire auditorium rose to its feet. Eli looked out at them, stunned. He did not win first place in the competition. He won something called the Community Award. But 2 months later, Westbrook placed a round table in the center of the cafeteria. A small wooden sign stood on it. "Open Seat." On the first day, no one sat there. On the second day, one student did. By the end of the month, the table was rarely empty. Years later, Maya would forget many things about middle school. She would forget test scores, locker combinations, and most of the gossip that had once seemed important. But she would always remember the blue lunchbox, the bruised apple, the boy sitting alone beside the vending machines. And she would remember what happened when she chose a different table. Because kindness does not always arrive as something grand. Sometimes it is only a tray placed across from someone, a chair pulled out. A simple question, "Is someone sitting here?" And sometimes that is enough to give a person back their place in the world.